Hello and welcome to Conversations with Creatives. My name is Esther Stanford, and this week I am delighted to be chatting with James Capel, screenwriter, playwright, and founder of the online writing community Scribe Lounge. I've followed James online for a while now and done things with Scribe Lounge, been on online festivals and things like that. And I think the work that he does with Scribe Lounge is phenomenal. We talk about that, how Scribe Lounge came about, how important it is as a writer to have an online writing community, because it's such a lonely thing to be a writer, isn't it? We talk about his writing process, the importance of finding your own voice, going about approaching people, putting projects together, one-page treatments. We also talk about navigating real life, paid life, working life with being a writer, which again, as I come back to a lot on this, is something that everybody has to juggle. And we talk about the part-time work that he has taken in the past to support and fund and free up time and stress so that he can write. We cover lots in this conversation. So without further ado, let's get into it. Thank you for coming to talk to me today.
Oh, my
I'm
pleasure.
so impressed by the work that you do with Scribe Lounge,
Well, thank you.
and what you set up, because I think as a writer, it's a particularly lonely thing. And you want to feel like you're part of a community. And sometimes having conversations with other people, you learn from them, you take things
Yeah.
in, you realize you're not alone. Somebody can help you see the way out of the woods. And a few years ago, actually, I was at the Birmingham Film and Television Market, and I said to a few people, oh, have a look at Scribe Lounge. And a few of them went already on it, and other people then signed up because I
Oh,
just think it's fantastic. What was the catalyst for Scribe Lounge?
oh man, I think it's everything you just said, to be honest, Esther. It's that feeling of like just not know like I came to London with no contacts and I didn't know anybody in the industry. I had no connections whatsoever. And when I was coming up as a writer, I I just didn't know where to turn. I didn't have any, and there was nowhere for advice. I think you could do like online courses or you could find, maybe a script consultant or something like that, but there was nowhere with loads of writers in one place, So the
Mm,
only advice I was getting was from producers professionally. And it's like, well, yeah, but I would quite like to impress you. So it would be really nice if I could get that advice elsewhere, learn and make my mistakes and then, kind of bring it to the table professionally. So, but ultimately, it was basically an accident. It was during the pandemic when, we're all stuck at home, we're all completely isolated. And a friend of mine, Kieran, he is an entrepreneur and a very techie guy, and he was just like, "Is there anything we can build? I can build websites quickly. What do you know? Is there anything for writers that we could make?" And I was just like, "Well, I did. There's some kind of community for writers would be great, somewhere for us to hang out." And so straight away, overnight, we came up with the logo, came up with the name, we registered it, and he made a homepage, and I started a waiting list, and I went onto Twitter, which was still good then. It was still Twitter, and it still had a community, and there was loads of writers on there. And I just started messaging people and was just like, I've got this space. Do you want to come and join it? Because if people don't join, it's a waste, it's never
yeah.
going to work. Right. And that was without really knowing what it was going to be, or it was mainly just to gather people in a space. And in those first few months, when we only had like a couple of hundred people, it was just about jumping on Zoom, and sharing what we're working on and sharing that feeling of like, oh God, you know how difficult it is too, you know? And I think because I was like someone that, I mean, I wasn't Jed Mercurio, but I had an agent and I had a credit on TV. So I had some kind of like movement. I was like, I'm at least moving, or, so it was enough to tempt people, I think, into thinking, right, okay, you can come along with me on this journey. I'm not going to preach and teach you anything. I'm just going to hold a space where we can all be in this together. And it's basically just rolled on from there ever since. And now now it's what, 6 years later,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
have just over 5,000 members now, which is
Wow, that's
bonkers.
incredible, isn't it? And the thing is, it's obviously like you felt the absence of that space, and obviously so did 5,000 other people. I mean, you run a weekly, so you do the Friday writing room, don't you? Do you do more than the Friday writing room
Yeah,
on a weekly
now there's
basis?
now there's tons. So, like,
Um,
back when I started, it was just me, and I was running all the sessions, and there's 2 parts to Scribe Lounge. Scribe Lounge is a huge free community. It's a free thing to sign up to, and you can get involved, and there's lots of free stuff that we run, but we also run paid, pro memberships, where if you wanna take your career a little bit further and do a bit more, then we have that available, and we run writing groups, and we run all sorts of extra stuff. So I sort of migrated over there and do a little bit more over there. But yeah, our other hosts, now we have a whole team. So we have guys that run, daily writing rooms, where you can just turn up on Zoom and turn off your camera and kind of all write together, which sounds mad, but actually it's
no,
weird. It's weird if you've ever done it. It's so weirdly productive, isn't it?
yeah,
Um,
but it's like body doubling, isn't it? If you're
yeah,
struggling to get going, you know somebody else is doing it. Sort of
yeah.
saves you from like cleaning the bathroom instead of
That's
doing
it.
your
And they
writing.
do a big hello. There's always like a hello, how are you? What are you working on? And then it's like, right, guys, we're going to get to work. So we have guys that run those sessions. We have like a writing ramble, which is like a weekly kind of conversational thing. We've run live events. We've run script competitions. So we've got Elevate, which is we've done a drama script competition. And this year we've done a comedy script competition where the winners get introduced to industry professionals. That's part of the kind of the prize behind it. So we do tons. Now we do tons. So much that I can't keep across it. I feel like it's got so much more momentum beyond me, that I just kind of manage the team and oversee what's going on. Kind of oversee the sort of yearly schedule that's kind of come. So yeah, it's got completely out of hand, Esther. It's got completely out of hand, and now it's an absolute juggernaut that is not. It's not about me anymore. I just got the ball rolling, and now there's a
Yes.
whole host of really like my team are lovely, dedicated writers. They're all writers too, and that's it. We're all writers, and we're all just trying to work and produce stuff together. So that's what makes it what it is, I think, because it's
And do you
run by
still find
writers.
plenty of time to write? I mean, it's just so starting March House that I've started, I have
Yeah.
almost a big vision of where I wanted to go, but then I also feel like that can be quite paralyzing. Did you have a big vision, or was it just I'm just going to create a space and then we'll see where it goes?
Yeah, completely organic, no plans,
Yeah.
which is it's hard because it means that nothing is done with purpose. It's like I feel like Scribe Lounge started as a small village. It started as
Mm,
Londinium that has now grown into London, and so we're kind of starting to understand how to make it better retrospectively because it's all happened by accident. And in terms of like a plan, no, there was not one. And in terms of my time, that's changed over years actually, because in the first, I'd say 2 years, first 2, possibly 3 years, I gave it everything I had, and there was very little time to write, or I certainly found it frustrating because my time was primarily being taken up with this, and I'd also have part-time jobs as well, and it kind of, I was trying to sort of manage it all, and then it was only when Scribe Lounge got to a certain level where I was able to make a living from it that I
mm,
could just dedicate my time to that, not have any part-time jobs, and then that gave me a little shred of time back to write. And that shred of time is small but consistent. And I always make sure that even now it's a minimum of 2 hours a day, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I get a lot done in that 2 hours.
mm.
It's more about those 2 hours adding up every single day. I'm not someone that can sit down for 8 hours in one day and do loads. I just won't. My brain creatively just does not work like that. Whereas for me, and I've got 2 small children, so time is like itty bitty. And so now it works perfectly where I've got that balance of Scribe Lounge it takes up a lot of my time, but there's always time for writing, and I write every single day just for those at least 2 hours.
And
But
it's
yeah,
wonderful that it's given you an income, isn't it? Because I have so many people say to me, I work a lot with actors more than writers,
yeah.
but they will say to me, so what do I do for a job then? And I'll go, I don't know. It's kind of, and so to have something that is linked to what you do yourself as a writer, but it's sort of using a different part of that brain, isn't it? And I imagine seeing other people's work and sort of immersing yourself in that sparks new ideas in you, and
Absolutely.
that's an amazing thing.
It's definitely inspiring. It was paralyzing at first
Yeah.
because I went from having no creative connections to hundreds immediately, and it growing. And suddenly I'm in our regular writing groups that we do with the pros, I'm reading loads of material. We're all reading each other's material, we're all giving feedback all the time. And suddenly I'm realizing how many brilliant writers there are out there, and it is really inspiring, but also it made me go, "Oh, crap. Who am I then? Who
Yeah.
am I? What do I do? Where do I sit in all this?" And it made me really look quite hard at myself. This was a couple of years ago, and really kind of I had to re-evaluate who I was as a writer, because the instinct in me was like, oh, to try all these different things. But actually, it was a journey. It was about coming full circle and trying to understand who I am as a writer again. And I think that's the gift that it's given me, is that it has made me really understand who I am through
Yeah.
everybody else's brilliant work. But I think what you were saying back then about the jobs and what jobs do I get, it's so hard. I think the thing that unlocked everything for me when Scribe Lounge was just starting, or just before it started, I got a part-time job just working as I was a receptionist at Nuffield in the town that I live. And nobody knew what I did outside of it. Nobody cared what I did. And I didn't really talk about it. It was just something that I was using. My physical body would turn up to this job. And actually, I found that really refreshing. Uh,
Mm,
I was able to pay my bills and have a job that did not require my heart and soul. It just requires me to be there and be present on the day, right? So it wasn't taking from me. So it meant that when I was writing, that capacity was not taken up. And so actually, that was the first time in my creative life I found balance, because that part-time job I found for me, I couldn't have it take up too much of me, if that
mm.
makes sense. So I could
It
separate those
totally
things out,
makes sense. It
And
totally
funnily
makes
enough,
sense, because I think once you know you've got an income as well,
yeah,
um, it gives you creative freedom. When I'm not earning, I suddenly feel like I can't create anymore,
yeah,
because I'm too concerned with that. And like you say, the ease of this, so for example, I have a podcast and I love editing it. And because it's a finite thing, it's
yeah.
you've done it and it's done, and it doesn't require tons of brain power, and it's done and it's out the door. And I think anything that then gives you the freedom to be able to actually write, I do think it's a really freeing thing. And I think if you can have a part-time job or something like that so that you've got that income, I think it's a brilliant thing. I think it's
Oh,
amazing.
absolutely. Because I think those days of where it's like, oh no, you need to be a desperate artist you need to have that fire under your ass in order for you to want to do it. I don't think that doesn't work in this modern age. I think we're all hustlers. Everybody has side hustles. Everybody has stuff going on and multiple strands to them, to the multifaceted in their
Yeah.
talents. And I think that's just the way it is. It's about how you balance it. Some people can do it with a full-time job, but in an office with an intense job, and then still find time to write. If that works for you, that's amazing. But there will be a lot of people that can't work for, because they're exhausted, because their job
Mm.
takes so much from them. And I think that's where dedication comes in. If you really want to prioritize writing, or being in this industry, that's what you have to prioritize. So you do need a job that is going to give you that mental space to be able to write. And if that big paying job is getting in the way of that, then that's your choice right there. But it's so hard to say that, because it's all down to the individual. But yeah,
And also,
balance.
I think there's quite a romantic note. Well, there's sort of, I think with most creative work, there's sort of the notion that you have to be doing it all the time or you're not successful, and you mustn't have a side job. And that's just not a thing.
Absolutely.
Um, And I think there's something about the structure, actually, I find quite good. Like, I don't currently have a part-time job. I do a lot of teaching and stuff like that, acting, coaching, and teaching. But there's something about the structure of 2 days a week, I go to this place and I don't have to think, but I have to be up and out the house. And then that means I've got a little bit less time to write, but then I do it in that time.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes if the week unfurls in front of you, I don't. I'm not going to, I'm going to do other things. It's going to take me a while to get there. Whereas if I go, I've got an hour, quick, go, then everything starts flowing. And there's something about that constraint that I think is really helpful.
It is completely. Well, it is for me. Some people don't work well under pressure. Some people thrive off pressure. It depends.
Mm,
And for me, as I've also, particularly since having children,
yeah.
my time has got smaller, as it does. As any parent will know, your time gets smushed. And so you have no choice but to have tiny little shreds of time. And now that's when I'm at my most productive, when it's loads of little bits. And I have found that I have to get out to write. I have to go to a cafe. I have to go to a separate space because that holds me in that bubble. And it's like, it's different. I can't just be at home. I can't merge the two. I wouldn't be able to sit at a laptop at my kitchen table and be working on Scribe Lounge stuff and they go, right, I'm going to write now and just put my ear
Yes.
and start
Yeah.
writing. No way, can't do that. Have to separate it. No matter where I am and what I'm doing. Yeah, because
And
they don't
it's
meld
weird,
together.
isn't it? Because my husband, we essentially have got 4 bedrooms and we just divided this fourth bedroom into 2 rooms. So my husband's got an office and I've got an office, but the
Yeah.
wall is not thick enough. And if he's got music on or whatever, I'm like, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't think, I can't
Yeah.
concentrate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then he'll say, but you go to a cafe, and I'm like, but it's different. Yes, there's noise, but I kind of switch off from that. And I think you're right, because we do so much at home now. It's having it's being able to separate the work out, isn't it, and being in a different brain
Absolutely.
space. How do you write? Are you somebody who is walking, gets ideas and voice records them? Are you somebody who listens to music for inspiration? Where does it happen for you?
It's yeah, well, like everybody, I think it's everywhere. I think
Mm,
there's no routine. The only routine that I have now is, yeah, dog walks are probably the only free brain time. That's the only time my brain ever wanders. It doesn't
yeah.
get much time to wander. And even then, it's like there's normally something on my mind anyway. But it's literally those 2 hours in a cafe each day. That's my time. That's where it all happens at the moment, and that's where it's been for the last couple of years. And it's been really productive for me. I've written more in these past 2.5 years than I have in the previous decade, purely
Yeah.
because my time has got really smushed, and it's meant that I'm constant because I'm there every day, 2 hours, no matter what, sacred time. I'm always producing something. Sometimes it might be 10 pages, sometimes it might be nothing. It might just be notes, but point is that's my creative time, and I
Mm.
really try and protect it no matter what. And that's where it's at. So I don't really get the luxury of loads of thinking time. And I'm not someone that gets ideas randomly in the shower or randomly washing up, or because I'm such a compartmentalizer that it's almost like a tap. If it's creative time, that tap goes on,
Oh,
you know.
wow.
And if I'm not, it has to go off because I'm
Yeah.
always doing other things, more practical things. It doesn't mean that ideas don't pop in occasionally, but I'm not. But they don't come at me. I won't think about my projects all day long. I don't do that, which is maybe it's strange. I don't know. Maybe it's
I think it's
conditioning.
probably quite healthy, because I think it probably means that you're present with the people that you need to be present with, instead of your head in a screenplay or something like that. Do you ever feel I'm it's so great to hear you say how you really protect that creative time, because I think it's quite easy. I struggled with this for a long time, that I would abandon it because something needed doing, or the children needed something, and I'd be like, well, I can do that. I'll just move it to tomorrow. And actually, I was talking to a fabulous artist a few weeks ago, Nadia Atora, and she wakes up in the morning and she said, I paint, and all till lunchtime. I do all of my creative stuff first thing, and then I do my admin, because otherwise I spend all day doing my admin,
Yeah.
which I could do in half an hour, because I sort of faff around with it, and then I lose the creative time. Um, and yeah, do you struggle with protecting that time ever?
Yeah, yeah, all the time. All because there's always something, isn't there?
Yeah,
Always something. And, like, don't get me wrong, like, I say every single day, there are days when it goes to shit and something does fall into place and it's, it goes, but I try really hard. I've done it today. And it's always early. It's always like my golden time is anywhere between 9 and midday or 1 o'clock. Anything past that, it feels like the day is real now and people are around and emails are buzzing and I used to be a 5 a.m.er before kids, because the quiet, there's something about the quiet
yeah,
for my brain. But yeah, it is a struggle. I think we all have a priority list in our life. Say you've got a top five and they're consumed by like children, perhaps the gym is the thing, your fitness levels, your creative work and like seeing your friends or something, whatever your top five priority list is. But those things, they always move up and down. And
mm,
it's so easy for things like creativity, your creative time to be pushed down that list. It's
yeah,
exactly the same as going to the gym. There's a
yeah,
reason people struggle to get that into their habit and stay going. It's the same thing. It's just
yeah,
that it goes down their priority list and people will always
yeah,
say, "Oh, I'm too busy at the moment." And it's like, "Yeah, but you're probably not too busy to sit down for 2 hours at the end of the day and sort of watch a TV show, you know? You could find time. Anybody could. It's just that it's not high on your priority list. Other things
yeah,
are, and that's fine. That's totally fine. It's just that if you want to be dedicated, if you really want to do it, it's got to get up that priority list, because you owe
yeah,
it to yourself. And real creatives, people that have to write. I don't know about
yeah,
you. For me, if I don't write, I feel like a radiator that needs bleeding. You know what I mean? I'm literally like a balloon that it will fill up and will burst if I don't get that release. I get
yes.
grumpy, I get irritable, I can't think straight. I've got to get it out, you know?
Yes. I
And
I
so
often find
really
on
hard.
dog walks, lines pop into my head and then I record them and then slowly it all comes together. What is your writing process? Do you do you write an arc? Do you go lead with characters? How do you write?
It's so interesting because I run loads of sessions on these subjects all the time and talk to other writers about different processes. And mine's evolved over time because and particularly at the moment because I've been screenwriting for over 10 years, and in the last 18 months I've started writing theatre. I've kind of just found myself segueing into theatre, and my process has totally changed, which is really interesting because of the mediums. But talking about screenwriting, I started as someone that didn't plan. I was a complete pantser. I would just go straight to the page with a feeling. A song would get me all geared up, full of like instinct and emotion and all that sort of stuff. And I would just write and I would just go for it. And my first spec that that got me my agent was basically a big old piece of hot mess. It was a raw hot mess, but it had instinct in it. It had an instinctive thing in it that was just obviously, there was something in it. But in terms of its discipline and its shape, it was never going to happen. It was optioned twice over the years by different producers and is never going to get made. But there's a rawness to it. So I started
Mm.
like that. And then I spent the next few years trying to understand how I'd pulled that off. I think loads of writers do this. They write a great script by accident and then go, "Oh, how did I pull that off? What are the mechanics behind how I've actually pulled that off?" Because it's all done on instinct. And then actually you find it's really hard to replicate because you did it on instinct. So I've spent the subsequent years trying to figure out how I did it. And a little bit more planning came into my process. And then when Scribe Lounge started, we really started talking about it a lot, talking about processes, talking about different ways. That's the first time in my creative life I started reading books and looking at different, techniques that people had. I'm not a big sort of screenplay book guy, but I was just sort of cherry picking. And now I've got myself to a point whereby, particularly for TV, the idea starts with a premise. I love a one-page pitch. That's
Mm.
my favorite things to write. They're agony to write for a lot of
Yes,
people.
they are. Yeah.
Because they show your idea for what it is. They really expose it. So if there's not a lot there, you'll see that. But actually, you can put a lot into a one pager. And so I got into a rhythm of, particularly once I was introduced to lots of different producers, I was able to develop this shorthand of putting my ideas into a pitch document, into a one-page pitch, and then that would start the conversation going. And then from that one-page pitch, I would know I have a solid premise and a solid story engine. So I know that this piece it has a dilemma, it has something to overcome, and it has somewhere to go. That story engine is there. So I knew I would have that. And so then I would take that and I would put it into what we would traditionally call a three-act structure. It's something
Mm.
that I kind of learned from John York, basically, without doing one of his courses, but through meeting him, through doing different bits and bobs. It's a basic three-act structure that anybody can find on the internet, and it's basically just, from inciting incidents up to a sort of a positive and a turning point, and then down into a low point and a realignment, and then it's very basic. But there's something about learning those basics that means it's like jazz. Once you know those basics, you can mess with the form, and you
Mm.
can do it deliberately. And that made a real difference once I had that stability and knew those rules. I suddenly realized how I'd pulled it off right at the beginning, and how I can do it again. So now, sorry, it's a rambly way to get to your
No, it's great.
answer to this question. But so now what I do is, yes, I have a one-page pitch. That's where I start. Make sure I have my premise. I make sure that there is a dilemma, not just a situation. I think a lot of the time people just have a situation, an interesting world, an interesting character, but do they have a dilemma? Do they have something to overcome? Making sure I have that, because that's your story. Make sure I have that. And then I will look at some kind of three-act structure and just want to know the major beats. If it's a pilot, I just want to know what my major beats are of that episode. Where does it all kick off? What's the turning point in the middle? How does it perhaps come crashing down or look like it's all going to fall apart? And then what's my hook right at the end? What am I going to make my audience? How am I going to make them feel, oh crap, I need to watch the next one? What
Mm.
next? Give them that feeling of, oh, I see where this is going, but I have no idea what's going to happen, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so once I have those major beats, then I will start to slowly bullet point the scenes. But then at that point, I like to start writing. I'm not someone that fully beats out every single scene before I start writing. There are people that do that and do it very, very well. They have to know every single minute detail before they even go to the page. Whereas I'm not like that. I'm kind of in the middle. I get to that point where I have the fence posts, but I don't know what the panels are in between. So
Yeah.
I start going from thing to thing, and it gives me a little bit of elasticity in the story. Means that there is a little bit of movement. I know where I'm going, but in terms of scenes, I can still be instinctive, and I can still go to the next, go where I want to go, as long as I hit that next fence post and then move on. And I'll do that until I get all the way through the script, basically. And
It's
that's
fascinating to hear different people's processes. I mean, when I was a little girl, I used to write plays and stage them in my grandma's garage, and I was
yeah.
in them, and I would make programs, and I would direct the neighbours, and the neighbours' kids, and we would settle, a Kiora and a timeout bar for 50p, and it was like they were always murder mysteries.
Yeah, of course.
And then I had a drama school, and I wrote. There wasn't a play for 27 characters, so I didn't want to double cast because we were doing this night at the Birmingham Rep, and there were
Yeah,
actually I had two groups of kids, 13 to 15 and 15 to 18, and they both needed 27 characters. So one of them I wrote was about a couple that get engaged on New Year's Eve 1987, and you follow them and their families through and
sure.
to New Year's Eve 88. And then the other one was about the one for the 13 to 15-year-olds was like a X Factor final type thing. So
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
got
yeah.
girl bands and boy bands, because I wanted everybody. I wanted no chorus. I wanted everybody to have something rich that they could get their hands
Yeah.
on. But when I finished it, I thought, oh my God, why am I not doing this for myself? So I assembled a small cast of four, and I knew I was going to be in it. And I spent a year thinking about the characters and what might happen before I put any, this is such a rogue way to do it. Before I put any pen to paper, I'd be thinking about them, and then I'd be walking on listening to songs, and I'd think, well, that would be part of it, and that would be part of it. And I had reams and reams of notes about who these people were.
Yeah.
And then I I booked all the venues because I self-funded and produced it, and we were at the New Diorama in London and up in Nottingham and in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I had 5 days to go before the rehearsal and sat down and wrote for 12 hours a day for 5 days. And do you know what? It was really weird because I did know certain beats, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
sure.
entirely sure I was going to finish. But because I'd spent a year thinking about the characters and also I started my life out doing loads of acting, I found I was listening to what they were saying, and that was making me laugh or cry or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then I mean, the hours, I'd think I'll stop in an hour, and then I'd look and 3 hours would have gone
Yeah.
by, and it's a stupid bloody way to do it because it was so stressful,
But
but
if that's the way it
we
has to
all
happen.
work differently, don't we?
Yeah, if that's the way it has to happen. And it's
Yeah.
so funny you say that because I think, like I said, I've recently moved into theatre. I'd not before 18 months ago, I hadn't written a play for 20 years since my A levels, right? I came out of uni. I went to drama school too. I was an actor as well, and I kind of did that for a few years, and then sort of segued into screenwriting. And because I was like, I grew up. I'm a working class lad. Grew up with like TV basically, and I never went to the theatre, even though you perform at school and stuff like that. It just wasn't an association for me. So I pursued screenwriting without thinking about it. And then 18 months ago, for a myriad of reasons, I had a play to write. I wanted to write this story. It was a play, had to do it. And the process is totally different for theatre. It's totally different. So all that planning, it becomes about imagery. Suddenly I'm like,
Mm.
oh, there's an image. So whether it's your, the New Year's Eve, engagement, it's like it's 27 characters in your mind. There's an image there. And I just found myself starting to write, and I would go back and I would readjust these foundations until they were right. But there was so much more expressive sort of creative writing involved. There is planning, and I would plan alongside and kind of do it, but it was kind of as I went. And I've done that. And that was my first play, and I'm on my fourth now, and it's the same thing. It's the same process. It's coming out totally differently. I think it's the
Yeah.
rigidity of screenwriting has taught me a lot, but actually, there's something in theatre where it just has to come how it comes. You
Yeah,
know?
I think so because because I wrote, a couple of short films and we won awards for them, but I was also directing them, so it was I kind of
Yeah,
would go, well, that would be a beautiful shot, and actually we could change this, and so it's all within my creative control. I'm
absolutely.
singing the theme tune and
Visually as
doing it
well, right?
exactly, exactly. But then I had at the London show we had a very good television producer came to see it and he said, I want to work with you. And so then we spent 2 years developing two different television shows. And it was so different because the play, well, I wrote that and I produced it and we staged it and it did well. And then it was like, oh, this is really different. And you have to do the 1-page pitch. And my problem was the characters were always so rich. It was learning to condense that into the shortest form possible so that it was punchy. It grabbed the reader, but also I could get across what I wanted to get across and the story. And it is so different, isn't it? It's such a different thing. It's weird because you want the richness of the characters, but also on stage you're perhaps saying more. There's the new might on screen, and also you, like you say, you're getting to the end of an episode, and then you need that what's going to bring them back for the next one.
Absolutely.
Because I
I like
remember developing one show, and he was saying, well, we need to turn somebody into the antagonist, and I was like, but I don't want an antagonist. I don't watch Gavin and Stacey with an antagonist. We just know them, and and I'm quite character driven.
yeah.
But I also like the grey. I like nuance. I like the fact that nobody is black or white. And the play I had on, I remember people saying at the end, "Oh, I was on everybody's side," but then I was a bit irritated by them all at some point. And I think, yeah, good, because that's life. They've all fucked up a bit, but
Yeah.
they're all trying their best, and that is humans, and that's what I love. And there is a certain freedom to playwriting that isn't quite there, particularly if you can self-produce, because there are so many gatekeepers.
Yeah.
With the plays that you're doing, are you linked to a theatre? Are you self-producing? How's that working?
Well, it's sort of it's all brand new to me. It's all
Mm.
completely brand new, and I'm finding that, yeah, just to speak on that creative side, it's for me, it feels like the difference feels like in television, Yeah, you're pitching a whole television show, so you need that story. And for me, it's like trying to pitch the concept to a whole album, whereas
Yes.
writing
Yeah.
theatre feels like writing songs. Just an individual, beautifully detailed and complex song, but you don't need the whole album, right? So there's enough for a whole album, but I don't have to tell you it. That's for your mind, that's for your imagination. And so I found that hugely liberating. I think that's what it is, you know. And like, sorry, I use shit analogies all the time.
No, I was just about to say that is a gorgeous analogy, and I'm absolutely going to be writing that down at the end because I actually think it's quite freeing
It is.
as
It
well.
totally is. Or to use another one, it's like the phrase that comes up in television a lot is the Trojan horse, right? Where
Mm.
it's like your television show, there will be something you want to write about. Say you want to write about a marriage, and the intricacies of this marriage, and it's all the detail and the gooiness inside of it, that brilliant stuff. Yeah, that's brilliant. But in order to get it away as a television show, you've got to hide it inside of a Trojan horse that you can sneak through the gates. And that horse might be a detective show, a sci-fi, it could be God knows, but it's that horse is over the top, and you'll get that through the gates, and then all the bits inside, that's when they jump out and you can tell that story. Whereas I've found with theatre, I don't need that horse necessarily, I can just tell that
Yeah.
story. Not always the case, depends what you're doing, but for me currently, that's what it's really been about. And it's so freeing. It's really, really
Mm.
nice to do. But yeah, it's all a bit of an accident. It's all really early days. But essentially the first it's strange to be talking about it at this time actually. The first play that I wrote, I finished 18 months ago, was picked up by a producer, a big commercial producer in London, and the read through for it is happening in a week with
Wow.
the cast and the director. So it's all pushing towards reality, very, very sort of quickly. It feels but it's all brand new. So that
Mm.
was just the first one. And so subsequently since then, I've kind of quietly squirreled away and not pushed the other ones quite so hard. I feel like that's more of a training ground. I feel like I'm rapidly trying to catch up to where this play is going to begin, where this is going to, because I'm brand new again. I'm a debut playwright.
Yes.
So it's about to come. If it goes on, it will come out, and I will be brand new, even though I've been around for 10 years and like doing it in a different medium.
Yeah, well, there's no overnight success, is there?
No, exactly. So I feel both prepared and underprepared. You
How
know,
do you how do you find how do you think you'll feel at the read through? Because I remember it was when I had that group, the eldest group, read the play that I'd written, and I'd spent so long on it, and do you know what? I'm so proud of it. It was such a good play,
yeah,
and it was actually a play that was going to be turned into a series that with the producer that
really.
I was working with. Um, uh, I remember physically shaking as they were reading it. I was sort of a bit, oh God. And also, because you write with the voice that you want that character to have, it's so unusual hearing somebody else's interpretation of how you've written something. How do you find hearing people read your work aloud?
I'm already shaking, and I will be shaking, because the people involved are incredible.
Yeah.
So whatever happens, it's going to be one of the biggest moments of my career to date. So
Wow.
I'm really, really excited, really terrified, but also, yeah, I mean, like you said, there's nothing quite like people saying your words, and I'm really looking forward to them taking it into different directions, because so far these characters are really part of me, and it's a really the play itself. I mean, I'll be able to talk about it hopefully down the line. Well, maybe we can talk again about it.
Oh, that would be
But like,
lovely. That would be
it's
brilliant. Yeah.
basically it's basically just four siblings arguing over a table for 48 hours. I mean, that's incredibly simplified, but that's essentially what it is. And so it's incredibly personal. It's
Yeah.
really, really personal, and it's really kind of yeah, it's really personal. So to hear them take it into a different sphere will be incredible. And I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I will be a wreck, but on the surface, I have to be perfectly professional.
Yes.
you know,
The legs
um,
jittering under the table.
yeah, exactly. That's why it's lovely to talk to you now, because this is a fantastic distraction. because it's all we're gearing up to, and with we're casting the other roles, and it's all happening very fast, and it's so yeah. But these things happen in our industry. We have lots of period of silence when it's just us. I
Yeah.
wrote that play when nobody knew about it. I didn't mention it to anyone in my life, not my agent, not even my partner. I was just going to my cafe, and I was just writing for 2 hours, and I was just writing something. I was just expressing myself and really enjoying it, you know? And lo and behold, the thing that really connects to you is the thing that really ends up connecting to the industry.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's when I had my play on a few years ago, my friend came to see it, and she's incredibly well connected, actually. And she went out to America, and she got a meeting with Sony about something. She said, "Can I take your play?" And I said, "Well, I'll give you a treatment. You can't take my actual play, no, but I'll give you a little treatment thing for, or just a one pager." And actually Sony were really interested in it. It sat on their board. But at the time, it wasn't that long. I mean, it was 2020, so it's not long after Fleabag.
Yeah.
And that's what people were looking for. And my kids are like 19 and 17. And we watched the first season of Fleabag a few months ago. And I thought, yeah, because the reason everybody really connected to it is because there's so much honesty. I mean, I go back to her speech about, I want someone to tell me what to wear. I want someone to tell me like, we all have those feelings. And that's what the great thing about a play or a screenplay is, when you can really see yourself and then you go, I'm not I'm not stupid. I'm not weird. We all have these sort of feelings. It's a human condition. And when you're writing something that is so from the heart, like you're writing your play, then we feel that as the audience. We're
Yeah.
moved by it. It connects because it's not trying to write a hit. It's writing that human experience, and that's so important.
I think that's that, and it also sheds a light on the difficulty of doing that in television, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's why there are only a handful probably of really great shows, or
Yeah.
ones that connect to you personally.
Yeah.
Everybody ranks a great show differently, but you will only want to name 5 to 10 shows in your whole lifetime that really matter to you, and it's because it's about getting that match between something that the writer really cares about, people that the writer really cares about, but also having a genre on top of it, a story that matters and moves along. That's why everyone talks about Happy Valley constantly, because
Yeah.
it has those two things. It has that connection and that heart and the humanity and what feel like real people that Sally writes, but also she's somehow put it inside of a really great cop show, you know?
Mm.
So to meld those two things together is incredibly difficult. And people often use Fleabag as that example and say, well, but they need to understand that Fleabag's different because it started as a stage show. It's a
Yeah.
one-woman show, so it has no horse, it has no Trojan horse. It was a stage show. So that's why when you try and analyze it, you go, well, what's her dilemma? What's the objective? Well, there is none, because it came from a different place. It came
Yes.
from a different place. It was not manufactured for television. It was adapted for television. Totally different, you
And
know?
that's why I think everybody was so captivated by it, and it felt
Yeah.
so fresh. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you probably do, but I find that I watch shows and I'm sort of aware of the mechanics behind them now. It's a bit like if I go to the theatre, I'm aware of the mechanics going on behind it, and if I drop out of it because I don't believe something, I can stay immersed in something, but as soon as I don't believe it, or
Yeah, yeah.
or, or like it's a storyline and it ends up in a certain way, and you go, well, that wouldn't happen. You're just doing that to make it difficult for them, but that actually wouldn't happen. It's quite hard, and we and my daughter's proper, she's 19, she's proper retro, so she's got DVDs and there's a lot of that, and
Nice.
she wants the
Retro DVDs. Oh my God.
yeah, so she's got over 200 DVDs. She's a
Wow.
cinematographer, and but we actually got old series of Only Fools and Horses,
Yeah.
and we've been watching those, and to look at the mechanics behind that show, it is so good. It is so shit hot. All of those characters are so well formed. There's a few bits that are slightly dated, but not much. There's
No.
there's nothing that is
You could probably
There's
deconstruct
nothing.
it.
There's what? Sorry.
Could probably deconstruct it, couldn't you? Down to its, like,
Yeah.
ABC stories, you know,
Yes.
and, like, it's so
And the
tight.
characters are so rich and like there's nothing and it still stands the test of time today. There's the odd line where you think they talk about going to the corner shop and they refer it as something we just wouldn't refer to it as now. But it's not being mean or racist. It's said with affection. It's everything. It's actually very social, which I didn't notice, but I was only like 10 in the 80s. You know, it's very it's actually very social and there's a lot of compassion in it and it really does stand the test of time and those characters are so amazing but I mean I've completely gone off at a tangent which I do tend to do but do you find that you watch things and you see the mechanics of it?
Yeah. If I can see the mechanics, I find it extremely off-putting because I think
Mm.
even as an audience, even if you're not a writer, we've all taken in so much TV and film via
Yeah.
osmosis that we can see the mechanics and it makes us like roll our eyes. You know,
Yeah.
you tell you if you know what's coming, then it's just you know yeah it'll bore you.
Yeah.
Where the best shows are the ones where those mechanics are completely hidden. They're still there. They're
Yeah.
still taking you on, like, positives and negatives and turning points and, like, realignments, and they're still doing it. It's just that it's completely invisible, and you don't
Yes.
realize you don't know how they're gonna deliver it, you know? And that's the beauty of it, you know? And then you take something that is more authored, like a Fleabag or Baby Reindeer, and it's like they have the ability to completely surprise you, you know? Or I May Destroy
Yes.
You. Take someone like a Kayla Cole, where
Yes.
it's like they can take a completely right or left turn, and that's so exhilarating.
It's really.
The toughest part with those shows is when we talk to new writers who don't understand why they can't just deliver that, you know? And it's like, well, because these guys, they know the basics. And then this jazz, they're playing with it. They're playing with it.
Yeah.
They're moving things around. They're kind of whereas if to start off with, you've got to learn those basics first before you can break those rules, you know? Otherwise
Mm.
can just be chaotic. Otherwise, you know, we don't want to know, we don't, audiences don't want to feel like they have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next, because then that's
Yes.
just thing. It's sort of just giving them enough so that they feel like they're being taken confidently down a road, but they have no idea which way it's going to go. And
Yeah.
that's the skill.
And it's interesting, isn't it, as well? Like the three shows that you referenced then, they are all authored pieces, and those are the things that stand out. Like when you look back across the last few years of television, those are some of the top shows that completely stand
Yeah.
out, yet
Maybe
they're
Reindeer was
authored.
stage as well, you know,
Yes,
and Michaela
exactly.
Cole, you know, started in
Chewing
stage
gum and
chewing gum, right? And so it's evolved, but they were very much able to cultivate her voice. And so I suppose it is just about voice. That's what it always comes down to, is voice, and it's that intangible thing of like, well, what is a voice? What is a writer's voice? How do you find it? How do you know what it is? And it is really hard to kind of define. And I think but the writers that find that clarity in their voice and really start to understand what the them in it is,
mm,
they're able to really turn it up. And you know,
mm,
because like it's if you take Sally Wainwright and take Happy Valley, and if you gave somebody the blueprint of Happy Valley, a cop show, and said, right, go and write this, their voice would fill it in a totally different way.
yes,
Whereas Sally's voice, we can literally hear it. It's personified in Sarah Lancaster. It's like it's there. And that's
yes.
all that is just leaning into those little things. And I spent years looking at my original spec, that one that was the hot mess that got me my agent, and trying to understand how did I do that? What is it about it? And I realized that it was the really, really small stuff, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
the really small conversational turns or the really small choices that you're not even aware of that add up
The
to what
specificity as well, like the
absolutely.
podcast that I do with Susie, it's a mixture of we chat about a topic, we'll have comedy sketches in there, and then we have a guest at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And so and I find particularly with comedy, well, actually, I think anything. It's the specificity. Like there was something about we wrote something that was set in the Midlands, and it was sort of like 2 miles from the Licky End KFC. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, yeah.
it's those little details where it makes it rich. You
It really
understand it.
does. And it makes a difference, right? So I always there's a great example that's really, really small in the show Killing Eve, right?
Yeah.
That's like because Phoebe Waller-Bridge had come off Fleabag and, an amazing show, and then she takes on something like, Killing Eve, and it's like, oh, well, how is her voice going to come through? What is it about it that, how is she going to affect the flavor of that show? And there's a really small moment in it where Eve is in a cafe and they're interviewing a guy. I think the character's name is Frank, and they're interviewing, and he's an idiot, right? And so they have this really small moment where they sit at a table and they're going to interrogate him, and he has a plate of chips in front of him, and he takes one chip and he puts it in his mouth, and it's too hot. So he starts like blowing like an idiot because the chip's too hot, and he puts it back down, which is a funny moment. That's a really nice touch. And then minutes later, they're still doing the interrogation, but then minutes later, he does it again. He puts
Yeah.
another chip in, and it's still too hot, which tells you something about the character. The fact that this guy will not
Yeah.
learn from his mistakes. And
Yeah.
ultimately, that's his demise. He ends up dying in a very similar way where he doesn't learn from his own mistakes. And
Yeah.
so that right there is a choice by Phoebe to put that in to flavor that character. You could write that interrogation. You could give that interrogation scene to 100 different writers, and nobody's going to come up with that
Yeah.
because
And
that's
I,
her specificity.
and the one that popped into my head, well, there was one and then there was another one, but the one that popped into my head was Sandra Oh. One of the opening scenes goes into a meeting and she's got a donut, I think, in a bag,
Yeah,
and she
yeah,
sits down at the table and then she tries to eat it. It's quite a serious meeting, and then she's like scrunching on the bag, and it's the
yeah,
humanness of that, isn't it? It's the
exactly.
humanness of those moments. And also, I mean, it's not. I mean, this is just because Eve's a psychopath, but no, not Eve. Villanelle's a psychopath, but the thing when she whacks the little girl's head,
Yeah, yeah,
hits around, that obviously has to be there.
yeah.
But the
The
little
icing on
details
the
of
top.
like the
Yeah,
chip and the donut,
absolutely.
and
Oh, that's
it's
the
yeah,
specificity, isn't it? And that's what's
yeah,
gonna give you, and if you want, it's not just one moment, it's all those moments. It's all those choices. And what that does, it just gives it a little flavor. Just gives it a little
yeah,
wink, gives it a little nudge, and not to mention the way they speak. That's just their actions. But what if you put it together with how their characters speak to each other? Suddenly a voice emerges. And so that's
yes,
what we're looking for. That's always what brings something alive, so that you could go, okay, yeah, here's a cop show, but what's Esther's version of this cop
yes,
show? How do you fill this world with your subconscious and your kind of loveliness, And that's the thing that we're looking for.
yes,
That's the dial right there.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what I love about anything. I'm looking for humanness. I'm looking for the things I
Yeah.
recognize, and then you understand them. And a lot of it's the unsaid stuff. You have got so many projects. I had to look at your pages, and you've got so many things going on and in development and things like that. How do you how do you feel? Because they don't always come to fruition. And I think, again, if you don't work in the industry, that's a common misconception.
Mostly don't.
I had two very big projects with a very big producer. And then as another project took off and has gone on to do very well and been BAFTA nominated. But my stuff kind of just got moved to the side. And I'd spent 2 years of my life working on those things. And that is a really a fucking hard pill to swallow. And yes, they may come back round again, but I don't know. And again, one of the reasons I wanted to create March House is because I wanted to be able to build my own work under it. So I want it to be like workshops, but then where I could create my own productions and then have conversations.
Yeah,
It's an umbrella, essentially.
exactly.
And because I don't want to not have that autonomy over my own work, that you can put so many hours into a project, bleed into it, and for me, with that, because I hadn't written for television before, I'd done loads of acting
Yeah.
on TV and theatre, but I had never worked in television. So I just assumed this was all going to happen because I was being told it would. And this is all great. And I was going down to London for
Yeah,
meetings,
yeah.
and we're going to get you signed to a literary agent. And then suddenly something else came up, and I was, and I remember contacting the producer, and he's a lovely guy, but he said, look, they're still like two of my top things. Like, I love these projects. We're just going to have to park them for a bit. But that was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's absolutely fucking galling. How do you deal with that?
100%, 100%. I mean, frankly, it's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And it is because it's a hustle, man. It's a hustle. I won't say at every level, because there comes a level where it's not as much of a hustle anymore.
Yeah.
But for most writers, yeah, it's devastating. And I think, but you're doing exactly what I would always advise other creatives to do, which is to do other things, to
Yeah.
not put all your eggs in one basket, whether that's one project or one script. Do as many things as you want to do, as you can do, just to keep exercising that muscle, that creative muscle, because, yeah, invariably, like 95 or even 99% of the things that you're going to put out there and pitch will fail. And
Mm,
that's not because you're a bad writer.
no,
It's never about your ability. It's
no.
just about there's a myriad of different obstacles in your way. It could be timing, it could be casting, it could be just the commissioners, it could be which way the wind is blowing. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And it's just about how you can keep going, and how
Mm.
you can keep gathering these ideas, and nothing ever truly dies either. So if you have an idea that's knocked back, take it back, put it in your back pocket, save it for later, because there will be
Mm.
another opportunity where it'll
And
come
it's
up again.
thinking outside the box, isn't it, as well? And right, well, let's do this in a different way. And I think that was a valuable lesson for me, actually, because I did dedicate 2 years of my life to working on all that stuff, and then you're waiting for the producer to get back to you, and then suddenly there's a lot that needs doing. And I saw a post of yours actually that you got on Instagram, which really made me laugh, which was about your writing process. And then when it
Yeah.
said Google alternative careers, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think we all do that, don't we? I mean,
completely. And that's the thing. I don't think it ever stops you. I don't think you ever. Well, I don't know, but I certainly haven't got to the point where I don't fall into a pit of despair every now and again and think,
yeah,
what am I doing? This is all going to fall apart. What are you doing?
yeah.
You've wasted so many years doing this. But then you don't realize that you're taking steps forward. You don't
Yes.
realize every rejection is a step forward because it meant you went for something,
Yeah.
and it's just about gathering those and keeping moving and keeping enjoying it. And that's why I think Scribe Lounge is a blessing for me because it's now a space where I see people join who just love it. Not everybody joins Scribe Lounge thinking I want to be a professional writer. There are some people there that just want to write. They just want to hang out.
Mm,
They just want to talk about their ideas. They want to have fun. They've got a life. They don't need it, and they're not taking it as seriously as some of us. And it just reminds you that yeah, we do. We also do it because we love it.
mm,
Also do
yeah.
it because we love it, and so it's finding a way to keep that love alive, trying to keep a way of staying creative. And so doing exactly what you're doing, Esther, by having loads of different things going, they all help each other too. You'll
Yeah,
be
they
having
do.
conversations with creatives that you never know where those connections are going to lead to down the line, or
Yeah.
where you're going to meet again, or who's going to watch this and think, oh, and look you up and go from there. So
Well,
yeah,
it's true. I mean, years ago, I was doing a stage show. It was a comedy sketch show, and there was a lady called Janice Connolly who was there. Was in Peter Kay's Phoenix Nights, and she said to me,
right,
"Why
right.
don't I know who you are?" And I said, she said, "You need to start putting some stuff out." So literally the next day, I put characters out online, and about a month ago, I put on Instagram, "You have to share your work because people don't know you exist. If you don't connect with people, if you don't do stuff,
Awesome.
people don't know you exist." So then I put out a sketch that I had done 7 years ago that I'd found that I thought was quite amusing, and I stuck it out. And literally within a week, I'd gained 1,000 followers on Instagram and 800 comments, and I think it's at 214,000. And I
Oh,
was like, "What
wow.
the
There you
bloody
go.
hell's happening?" And you don't know what's going to happen. And
But
when I used to put those out, that ended up with me doing a load of work with ITV off the back of it. And so you have to as long as I would always say I wouldn't want to put anything out that I wasn't pleased with or proud of. But sharing it does
yeah.
it connects and things go off, and then people will say, "Well, have you?" Somebody might say to me, "Well, I wonder, right? Well, have you seen Scribe Lounge and James's
That's
work?"
and that's why people make stuff.
Yeah,
You can make a movie with an iPhone now.
yeah,
There is no excuse, not to go out and make something. You could do it
yeah,
on your own, cut by cut. It doesn't matter. There are so many different ways to do it. It's just about not being stuck to one path, I think,
yeah.
getting
I
to
agree.
kind of tunnel vision. I think that was my problem for a long time. I had to learn how to kind of just get myself off of that path. I was stuck in just TV development and nothing else. And it took me ages to get off that path. And I think the more people can widen that, the sooner the better, the more options you're going to have. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, and now you have a play that's
Yeah, there you
happening,
go.
and
Another
click click.
option, right? Just by trying
Mm,
something else, who knows? It could lead in a
yeah.
whole different direction. So we'll see.
Thank you. Well, I've had you for an hour. It's been
That's
so
fine.
lovely to talk to you. I've
Oh, my
loved every
pleasure. Thank you
second
so
of it.
much.
It's been so interesting to hear about your journey and your work and Scribe Lounge. I'll
Thank you
put
for
all
asking.
the details underneath.
Yeah.
But thank you for giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Esther. Thank you for having me.
It was such a treat to talk with James. I have never spoken to him before, and I don't know if you could tell, but in the latter half of that conversation, oh my God, when we got into the minutiae of characters and nuance and stuff like that, I could have kept talking about that for hours. That is very much my happy place. I don't want to talk about the weather. I want to talk about that kind of stuff. I'm really excited to see his play. I will definitely be going to watch that, and hopefully he will come back on after that's been staged so we can ask him questions about that. If you don't know Scribe Lounge, please do go and check it out. Join. It's free to follow. It's free to be a member. And the stuff they have on there is fantastic. And even if you don't pay for any of the courses, you just do the free stuff, you might make some nice friends as well and grow as a writer. I won't be back next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a fabulous guest. I would tell you about her, but I'm interviewing her on Friday. And if for any reason that is cancelled, it won't be her. So I'm not going to tell you. I will see you in a fortnight. Have a lovely couple of weeks. If you enjoyed this episode, please do like, subscribe, share, leave a nice comment. And if you didn't, well, then I bid you good day. And we don't need to discuss it any further. We'll just get on with our lives separately. Have a lovely couple of weeks, and I'll see you then.